Well, welcome to the 700 Club. Kim Jong-un's surprise visit to China could affect the upcoming U.S. summit with North Korea. Analysts believe both Kim and the Chinese president mapped out a game plan for the talks.
China is North Korea's strongest ally, and Kim spent several days there this week. National security correspondent Eric Rosales has the story.
The two-day secret meeting between the leaders from North Korea and China could lead to another seat at the table when President Trump sits down to talk with Kim Jong-un. China brings some extra clout after President Xi Jinping announced North Korea's commitment to denuclearization. Both are signals to the American president that the young reclusive dictator has the support of China, the most formidable power in the region. The commitment to stand down on nukes follows a busy year of a combined 17 full-flight missile tests, including North Korea's sixth and largest nuclear test to date. Since that show of force has been followed by a surprise olive branch, some question North Korea's motives. Regardless, experts call for the U.S. to pursue a specific goal when it eventually gets to the negotiating table.
This first meeting should be keenly focused on the actual steps that North Korea will take to denuclearize and to end its ballistic missile program.
Retired Army Colonel Scott Lingenfelter says the U.S. should only move forward with talks if North Korea proves it's serious toward meeting that demand. The former commander who served in South Korea says Kim Jong-un must be open to inspections and physically turning over rockets. Otherwise, no deal.
He can't be trusted, and he has absolutely no record. Nor did his father or his grandfather have any record of reliability when it comes to negotiating with the West. I mean, in the six power talks, his father walked away.
North Korea defense experts say that the U.S. should not offer anything like oil, food, or money to curry favor with North Korea.
Back in 2009, the North Koreans actually asked the South Koreans for $10 billion to have a summit. Now, the South Koreans said no, but this is where this could potentially go.
If this denuclearization goal were to be reached, Katsianis warns the U.S. would still have a long way to go in Asia.
We have to remember the long-term threat the United States faces. North Korea is part of that, but China is the bigger threat.
And the latest reports just this morning is that the leaders of North and South Korea will meet April 27th. The key topic is denuclearization. And we also know that China's president sent a message to Trump saying that Kim Jong-un looks forward to meeting him. But President Trump's public response, at least for now, maximum sanctions and pressure must be maintained on the North Korean regime at all costs. Gordon?
Well, Eric, let me ask you a couple of follow-up questions here. Has the White House weighed in about China getting involved in these talks?
Oh, most definitely. You know, the White House is actually saying publicly that they are optimistic about this, but cautiously. And you know what, I tell you what, you know, bringing China into the picture really narrows the scope for President Trump when you take a look at exactly where he can actually take these talks. Bringing China into the picture, you know, that just creates even more problems for the Trump administration. Kim Jong-un's decision to run to Big Brother is definitely a hat in for Kim Jong-un. But now that the president will be dealing not just with North Korea but also with China, you cannot misplace the magnitude of this. You know, that there is also no deal with China without North Korea getting into the picture as well. So it's interesting. You know, the U.S. remains cautiously optimistic with this, and actually the Japanese Prime Minister is getting involved as well. He wants to have a meeting with President Trump on April 19th just to talk strategy before President Trump will actually go and speak with North Korea.
Well, it looks like the region has some new hope. This is the first time a leader of North Korea has ever gone to South Korea. You know, could we get reunification on the table? Could that be part of the discussion?
Most definitely. I mean, I think reunification, that comes later on down the line. You know, the main thing that we have to talk about, especially in this first meeting, has to do with exactly what to do with denuclearization, how that's going to look. Spell that out for Kim Jong-un. You know, that the last thing that the U.S. should do is provide any sort of promises. That's what happens with a lot of these talks is, you know, things are promised and sometimes are not delivered. And we need to have proof that Kim Jong-un is serious about this, you know. And I think what's interesting is President Trump is actually gearing up for this when bringing in Bolton into the picture and also Pompeo into the picture to deal with North Korea, the National Secretary of Homeland Security, and also just trying to be able to deal with this catastrophic issue with North Korea, being able to find out that they are serious about dealing with taking denuclearization off the table.
Is the administration speaking with one voice? Is there one opinion on the U.S. side of this negotiation? Mathis, the defense secretary, has already come out saying he has a different worldview than John Bolton, who is sort of brand new to the team. Are we going to see conflict in the administration on strategy going into the talks?
You know, Mattis and Bolton have said that they are willing to work together on this. You know, Bolton actually wants more of a overthrowing. He actually wrote an op-ed talking about how he wants to overthrow the Korean government, possibly by force, where you talk to Mattis and he still wants diplomacy and being able to work out a situation, because he actually says that it will be catastrophic if, in fact, a preemptive strike is taking place. But, you know, let's face it, all Kim Jong-un is interested in is what is good for Kim Jong-un. He wants to be able to take away some of these sanctions. He wants to be able to work together with the United States in order to be able to take some of these sanctions that are taking place against him from the United Nations. But this is a man who cannot be trusted. When you take a look at satellite imagery, it's already showing that Kim Jong-un is firing up some of his nuclear reactors after years of construction. So that's what's taking place right now. Satellite imagery, according to my sources over at the Pentagon, shows that he is still doing his nuclear reactive type of tests, but doing so quietly. So the United States, again, remains cautiously optimistic.
All right. We will too. And Eric, we look forward to future reports. I'll just weigh in on one comment on this, that a war on the Korean Peninsula would be absolutely catastrophic. The entire city of Seoul would be reduced to rubble. There are more artillery weapons aimed at that city than any other place on the planet. And literally the destruction would happen in 20 minutes. We don't have an alternative here. We need to have peace. And it's wonderful that we're finally talking. Well, in other news, there's another shakeup in the Trump administration. John Jessup has more on that story from Washington. John?
Thanks, Gordon. President Trump has chosen White House physician Ronnie Jackson, to be his new Secretary of Veterans Affairs. Mr. Trump is said to be impressed with Jackson's January press briefing when he answered questions on the president's health for almost an hour. Jackson is an active duty Rear Admiral who practiced combat medicine in Iraq. He served as White House physician for 3 administrations. Trump fired former VA Secretary David Shulkin Wednesday evening after an internal report criticized an official trip he took to Europe last year. Well, French citizens marched through the streets of Paris Wednesday, demanding an end to anti-Semitism. The demonstration comes with growing concerns over a rise in anti-Jewish hate crimes throughout the country. Gary Lane has more.
Thousands demonstrated in the streets of Paris, singing the French national anthem, showing the world that France stands united against anti-Semitism. Politicians, Christians, Jews, and Muslims gathered throughout France just after the funeral of 85-year-old Morel Knoll. A Holocaust survivor, Knoll was stabbed 11 times. Her charred body was found after the murderer set her apartment ablaze to conceal the crime.
It started as a memorial in honor of Mrs. Knoll, who was killed. Once we've known that it was anti-Semitic motive, then it became a march against anti-Semitism, because she is the 11th person being killed for the only reason that she was Jewish.
French officials ruled the murder an act of anti-Semitism, a hate crime. Knoll's 29-year-old Muslim neighbor and a homeless man were charged. As thousands marched to honor Mrs. Knoll, there was another anti-Semitic incident in Paris. Nearby, at the French Jewish Students' Union at the Sorbonne. Written on an office wall were the words "Death to Israel" and "Palestine will win."
So it makes me really angry, and I'm looking for the government, for the police, for the justice, for the universities to condemn this act and to react very strong.
French officials have pledged to do what they can to prevent more attacks, but fearing the worst, some of the nation's 500,000 Jews have already fled the country. Gary Lane, CBN News.
Thanks, Gary. And it's not just Paris, Gordon, or France, Gordon. It's all throughout Europe, according to these groups that monitor anti-Semitism.
Well, there's a growing rise, and we all need to be concerned about it. But what it does underline is the need for Israel, the need for a nation, a need for the Jewish people to have the right of self-determination within their own national borders. There needs to be a place of refuge. And thank God there is one. And we're celebrating the 70th year of the founding of Israel this year, and praise God for it.